Hi friends, this is Laufie, and today I will be reviewing the brand new Lost Ark roadmap part 2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over everything one by one, and then at the end of this video I am going to kind of just give my general thoughts about what I think of the roadmap. So let's get into it. So before we even get to the first month that the roadmap covers, we find out that we're going to get an express event for each class. And a lot of people thought that wasn't going to be the case because of how historically Amazon and Smilegate have done this in the past. One class gets the express event, the next one doesn't, and then the one after that gets one, and then the next one doesn't. So it was like every other class got the event. However, the reason why I thought that both of them were going to get the event is because in the letter that came out, they talked about making events more frequent and perhaps overlapping. And the wording was vague, so this was an assumption that the word event included Hyper Express event. We didn't actually get to find out what the eye levels will be for these Hyper Express events. I do hope that the actual item levels for each class are on the higher end of things. We probably need better catch-up events, and I do hope that those express events include the event engravings as we've seen in the latest one that we got for the artist. Now the first and the biggest surprise we see in May, once we get to the May portion of the roadmap, is that Slayer is coming out first. And I think a lot of people were speculating, or even confident that Slayer is going to come out first. The big reason for that is that they said that it might not be the best if two IAs come out back to back. I didn't really buy into that idea, and obviously I was wrong, but the reason why I didn't is because that's the way they came out in Korea, so why would Smilegate worry about that for the West? I do feel absolutely terrible for people who were planning to make an Aeromancer. A lot of people who wanted to make an Aeromancer were probably assuming that we're going to get Aeromancer first, right? Because they were probably assuming that we're going to get it in the same order that KR got them. I'm not really sure what the reason is. A lot of people had polls on Twitter and on their streams and stuff. The interest seems to be more or less equal, but Slayer does seem to be a little bit more slightly popular choice. Next, they quickly and very briefly go over some of the smaller things. One of the improvements that they're implementing is something they mentioned in the letter, which is the improvements to the knowledge transfer system. Knowledge transfers are now going to be instant. I'm pretty sure that's what this is supposed to be. Some people were hoping that our latest patch with the artist was going to include this, but it didn't, so it makes sense that it would come here. They're also going to be implementing in May what they mentioned up here in the opening against the new player section of their letter to the community, where the battle items in earlier Guardian raids specifically are going to become free now. I think that's a fantastic addition. This was one of the good parts about the letter, I thought. I think that new players are more likely to underestimate the value of battle items, so they're more likely to use them and kind of burn through them. What confuses me specifically is they didn't mention anywhere in the roadmap that they are going to be adding this to Hell mode, which has been a highly requested change, I think, for a very long time, both from KR, from what I understand, and from the West. I thought they just didn't want to put in the resources and the time to develop the actual functionality for it. But it looks like now they actually do have that functionality in the game. That type of content that also requires a lot of perfecting your rotation, a lot of restarts and re-clears, and so much death and usage of battle items as you're progressing. The gold cost ends up adding up quite a bit. They already have the functionality in there, just tweak it so it works for Guardian raids, tweak it to add it to the Book of Coordination for Hell mode, and I think it would be a really good quality of life improvement for Hell mode. And I think if they do implement this eventually to Hell mode, this would be a really good change, and I think it's worth doing. The next very small sentence in this that is massive and huge for me and a lot of other Deadeye players out there and Gunslinger players, they've reworked Gunslinger and Deadeye Glow, so no more donuts, thank God. And also, and to me more importantly, is that there's now a holster animation. Deadeye and Gunslinger have the same reworked glow. However, the animation of holstering your weapon, specifically for pistols, is different for Deadeye and for Gunslinger. Personally, I think the Deadeye one is a little bit cooler. I'm very excited for this, considering that I main Deadeye. And obviously, Proving Ground Season 3, PvP season recently just ended, so Season 3 is going to be starting at some point in May. I got into the game to PvP, my stream started with the PvP focus, so I've been thinking of kind of doing it on the side a little bit more as of late. My main is already sitting at 1580. I think I'll have a little bit more free time to do fun things in the game, and PvP is part of that for me. Now moving on to the next month after is June. The first thing we're getting here is Elgacia. Now thank God, because that means no more Punica. And I have a very special hatred for Punica in my heart. Again, maybe hatred is a bit of a strong word, but I played on Russia prior to NA, and I had the absolute pleasure of spending about over a year sitting in Punica and hearing Lailai in Russian. And now, for this whole time that we've been on NA, I've also had the pleasure of sitting in Punica and hearing the Lailai in English. I've heard Lailai in every possible way. I'm actually going to pay attention to the story because apparently the story is pretty cool. And of course, with Elgacia comes Kayangel. I still don't know if I mean, it has the word angel in it, so I want to say Kayangel. But I've been hearing people say Kayangel, so maybe Kayangel is right, I'm not sure. But yes, so Kayangel is the new Abyssal Dungeon that's coming out. It's a 4-player Abyssal Dungeon. Think of it just like the Abyssal Dungeon we have right now. The entry level to the hard mode version of it is 1580. And we are also getting the second half of the tier 3 tower that we got. So right now we have 25 floors available to us, and then Fortune Spire is what it's called. In June, we're going to get level 26 all the way up to 50. June is looking, to me, pretty exciting, even though there's not like much stuff going on. Even with Shift G, I've heard that story takes quite a bit. And unlike Rowan story, where you don't need to complete Rowan's story to progress further on in the story in the future, Elgacia is actually a required part of your story progression. The silver lining for the story part of it and the length of it is that they did recently implement a change where Shift G applies to quests that you haven't done before. You can Shift G through it right away, so that'll save you a significant amount of time if you don't really care for lore in particular. Moving on to July. July is looking like a bit of a emptier month, which I think is pretty natural for every roadmap. I think if we go back and look at every roadmap that's come up, it's pretty natural and it's pretty normal, and it's, I think, good to have a month where not much is going on. If you're going to take a small break from Lost Ark, if you're going to play something else, July might be the best time to do that. Unless you are a Hell mode gamer, because in July we're getting Inferno mode for Clown, which is the Clown Hell mode. I know a lot of people have been practicing this on other regions, and a lot of NA players, and I really admire their dedication to Hell mode. Hell mode is really fun, and it's really, really challenging. If you're going to be doing Hell mode Clown when it comes out, I wish you the best of luck. And if you are somebody who hasn't tried it before, this month doesn't have much else going on, so maybe give it a try. We're also going to get the second part of the Elgacia quest, so not really second part, but the epilogue, which is the continuation of the quest here. So there's not much going on there. And also we're getting Music Box of Memories, which is a little collectible item, and we're also getting more quality of life updates as well. Roadmap is usually supposed to be very vague and just give you a general idea of things, so once we're getting closer to the month of July, we're going to get patch notes that will list everything that we need to know and everything we're wondering about here. And here's the heaviest part of this roadmap in terms of player feedback. We are getting Akkan in August. I asked my chat to give me feedback, and they did express a lot of kind of anxiety and pressure, and I think another word we know for those feelings is FOMO. Most people typically, when a raid comes out, they want to go immediately into hard mode. It seems like Smilegate is trying to get away from that. When Valton came out, I think most players went immediately into hard mode because normal mode was kind of pointless. The amount of relic pieces that it gave us was very small compared to hard mode, so most people went right into hard. The same story for Vicus, absolutely the same thing. Clown didn't have any difficulty splits, so Clown was just on its own. So I think that's kind of where this vision has started for Smilegate, is with Clown, is when they, first of all, they just didn't release a difficulty. And then if we look at Brilshaza, both of the difficulties, both normal and hard for Brilshaza, are equally important. When you're doing Brilshaza normal, you're getting the eye level boost that a lot of people needed. Doing Brilshaza hard mode is important because you get your ancient set. So both of them are equally important. I'm assuming that this is just a continuation of their vision where they wanted to make normal mode more important. Hard mode for Akkan actually isn't quite as important if we compare it with Brilshaza hard, because in Brilshaza hard mode you get your ancient set, In Akkan hard mode, you just get a little bit more materials. But normal Akkan functions the same way as Brilshaza, where when you upgrade your gear, when you transfer your gear over, it gives you an upgrade in eye level. And I have a picture for you here on screen that shows what the eye level conversion is. But the more important thing about this is that the actual level goes down. Your success chance goes up significantly as well. Honing from 1580 to 1600 right now on lower ancient is incredibly expensive and unattainable in terms of not only the materials that you see, but also the percentage chance of success. I don't really want you to pay attention to the numbers themselves because this is for average luck. 1580 is the item level for entering into Akkan normal. Entering into Akkan hard requires 1600 eye level. The array of fusion materials, they're very, very expensive. The increase here is massive. The increase in leap stones is also huge. The increase in gold cost is huge. Not only that, these numbers are here based on average RNG. When you're going from 1490 to 1580, your success chance percentage is higher than when you're going from 1580 to 1600. So not only does it cost you way more materials to get from 1580 to 1600 compared to this, it will also be less likely for you to hit that at an average RNG. You're going to be much more likely to go into high percentages because you're going to have to try more times, and you're going to be more likely to pity, which is going to end up costing you way more than what's on screen anyway. Akkan hard mode is not as important as Brel hard mode. If you are considering going for it, or if you are nervous and you don't feel like doing it, you really don't have to. Akkan normal will give you enough materials for you to upgrade your set. Eventually, you will get the first clear box, and then you will also, most importantly, get the increase in the item level and the increase in success chance. If you are not very close to 1600 right now, I think it's worth doing normal first and hard mode after, especially if you are one of the people who are making Slayer. Some of your materials are going to be offset towards gearing up Slayer as well, and it's a really fun class. It looks really fun. If you are feeling a little disappointed about this, I understand, because I am as well, for my own reasons, because I would like to experience the hardest difficulty of the raid blind. Try to put your disappointment aside, and I do share it. I do think personally that Akkan feels a little bit too early. Akkan's probably not going to come out August 1st. It's probably going to come out in the middle of August. We have over 3 months to prepare. Akkan hard, I strongly discourage you to push it, as I think it is unrealistic and unattainable even for somebody like me who's at 1580 already. Moving on, we are also getting the Aeromancer in August, and I think this is going to be the biggest point of contention. Me, I don't care about it because I don't make Hitmaster classes. I'm not interested in them. It looks really cool, but it's not my playstyle. It's not made for me. Everybody was probably expecting Aeromancer to come out first and then for Slayer to come out after. So not only they get swapped out, Aeromancer feels very far away. August is already packed because not only are we getting Akkan, we're also getting Sonoval, which is, by the way, the next Guardian raid after Hanumatan with the 1580 item level entry. August on its own is already stacked. July, though, is pretty empty, especially if you're not a Hell mode raider. There's absolutely nothing for you going on in July. There's a bit of a quest, and that's pretty much it. July, I think, is a perfect place because it's pretty much essentially empty. That's my personal feedback. If you agree with me, if you think it's unfair that it's in August, if you think they should push it up to July, absolutely, 100%, I encourage you to voice your opinion. Just please do it respectfully. Don't use abusive language. You can voice your anger, you can voice your disappointment. Please remember that there are real, genuine people with feelings who are reading your messages. I always strongly encourage people to voice their opinions of the game because communication is very important, and without that there would be no improvements to the game. When Artist got announced initially, people were dissatisfied with the date, most likely because of the player discontent that was largely voiced by a lot of people. They pushed it up to be a little bit earlier. Just because we have a track record of that happening, I don't think it's very cope of me to say that if people who are upset about Aeromancer coming out in August voice their concerns, maybe we can have the same thing happen as we've done collectively with Artist. What do I think about the map overall? I think it's good. I know a lot of people also think that Akkan is a little bit early. However, with normal mode being 1580 and normal mode spiking up your eye level and making it easier to hone your character to 1600, I think that it could be okay. However, I think the biggest concern is Aeromancer being a little too late. When Artist came out, for example, people could focus on that, and I think the way Artist actually came out was really good. The same thing with May, for example, like there's not much else going on in May for Slayer, so people who are going to be making Slayer are going to have the privilege of creating a new class in a month where there is not much else going on. Aligning a class release at the same time as releasing a major brand new raid is just too much. If Aeromancer was in the July part of this roadmap, I would honestly say this is pretty much a perfect roadmap. I'm excited to make Slayer. I will be making a Slayer. I will be gearing her up. Like I said, I'm a entropy enjoyer. I have 3 enhanced weapon Deadeyes and a striker. I will try to be as diligent as possible with farming on all of my alts. I'm basically lying to your face right now, but I will do my best, which won't look very good. But I'll try to save up as much materials as I can for Slayer so I can make her, and maybe I'm hoping that the same story as with Reaper doesn't repeat and I get her to 1465 by 3 and I just hate her. But that being said, I want to hear what you guys think. I want to hear if you disagree with other things on the roadmap. Let me know what you think they should have done. Go follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/LaufieLOL. I appreciate you watching this video all the way until the end. Like I said, share your thoughts with me, and I will see you in the next video.